Like it on?
Yeah.
It's on. We're recording. So over to you now, Chris.
Thank you very much. Okay, hi everyone. I'm excited to bring you a dear friend of mine, Cara Lambert, and I wanted to share with you some of our thoughts that we bring over great coffee, and it's always linked to the likes of business and psychology. Now, as you know, I work in the stress physiology field, and Cara Lambert, or she introduces herself, but we very much talk about business and psychology, talking about overwhelm and stress management. So I'm very excited that I managed to get Cara to agree to come on and have a chat with me on this video and then share it with the world. So Cara, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you and your audience about it. Yes, definitely a number of coffees. Though I hear that you've given up on coffee recently. So we'll have to find something else to have these conversations over in the future.
I'll be back.
But yes, definitely. We've spoken a number of times about stress, overwhelm, and running a business. If your audience hasn't heard about me, I hold a degree in psychology and a graduate diploma of management. I've been helping businesses move online since 2000, and I am really focused on what motivates us, both personally and what motivates our business and what motivates our audience. So that is something that I have been exploring now for close on 10 years. So it's a passion of mine, and I'm grateful to bring the story to you and your audience.
I think that's part of it, really. Whenever we sit and we chat and you know, it's going to be a quick coffee, turns into this sort of, it gets deeper and deeper, and what about this, and how do we do that? And all of a sudden, you know, we start to go, oh no. I think last time we had a horrible experience where we may have got a parking ticket because we oversat our coffee.
Just a little, but you know what? It was worth it. I knew that if I was going to get the parking ticket, it was going to happen, and the conversation was worth the money spent.
So I guess the people who are watching this, especially in my connections networks, there might be athletes, but corporate as well. So when we start to look at, let's say, business owners or people who work in corporations, how do they know that maybe they need to recognize the signs and when they need to reach out and maybe get a bit of support when it comes to, let's say, things like overwhelm and focus?
So I think if you look internally at how you physically feel, so you may feel tired, you may feel distraught or distressed, upset, lack of motivation, you may feel angry and frustrated, you may feel like you're spinning your wheels and going nowhere. Those kinds of things, a lot of people will come to me saying, Cara, I feel utterly overwhelmed. I don't know which way to go. I have what I term analysis paralysis. Can't make a decision for love nor money. And those are the key indicators that I see that people are overwhelmed and they are stressed, whether it's in themselves, in their business, basically their chosen vocation. Really, you all have the same physical outward feelings for overwhelm and stress.
Yeah. And so, you know, we start to get these physical factors, but we know that I deal with the physiology side. So we look at nutritional stress, metabolic stress, chemical stress, but then the psychological stress of overwhelm and I don't know, if we broaden that term and say happiness, and what a business owner, we'll call them business owners, what a business owner needs to be balanced so they don't start to get to that overwhelm, that other end of the spectrum.
So I think balance is key, but I mean, what I determine is balance and what you say is balance is really is personal. Balance is different for for each of us. Some people it may be time out. Some people it might be reading. For me, I go for a walk I try to get out every morning, plug my headphones in and just walk. And I'm so antisocial, it's not funny. It's head down, Spotify's on, don't disturb me. I might look up and smile at you and say hello if you're coming in the opposite direction. But for me, that's my balance. It's having clear boundaries. It helps with the happiness and the balance, but it's also understanding what motivates you. So for me, it's going for a walk. Going for a walk is what keeps me going. Taking time out and chatting with friends, meeting up for coffees.
Connections, absolutely.
Yeah, connections is one of the things, but understanding what motivates you. So you've got, if we're talking about motivators, I use the analogy of, we've got 5 key motivators that I refer to. So we've got our goals, our fears, our needs, our values, and our beliefs. And every one of us have those 5 key motivators within us. But we also have, our clients have them, our stakeholders have them, our staff have them. They all have those. And then our business has them as well. So I have this analogy that I use of a stool, and success and balance sits on top of them. And it's funny, we're talking about balance. So if you've ever sat on a stool where one of the legs is shorter than the other, it's out of balance. And we're no different. So if you're not aligned with those motivators, if you don't know what your goals are, or your values are, or your beliefs are, or something's come in and thrown those out of whack, you may be doing something that goes against your values. You will feel unhappy. Psychologists call that dissonance. You've got this mismatch between your values and what you're required to do. The example that I use for this is a toddler. You get a toddler to try and pick up their toys, right? They don't want to. And you tell them, you make them do it. So they're in dissonance. That's why they throw the tantrum and say they don't want to. And then what you have is compliance when you make them do it. We are no different as adults.
Yeah.
We have these things where, you're told you have to do something and it goes against your core values and you feel totally out of whack, you feel totally stressed, you feel overwhelmed, you throw the tanty and you just buck up and do it. That's dissonance and compliance right there, and it manifests in it. You might get a churning gut, you might feel really angry, you might feel frustrated. These are all these internal feelings, but once you get this alignment with your core motivators, and you understand those, and you understand those of your business, you've got these connections, and you understand those of your stakeholders, you've got these connections. And once they're all understood and connected, you have balance.
Yeah. There's a really strong message in there that I pick up, because if I'm working with leadership groups as well, so I used the term business owners before, and there might be entrepreneurs, startups, but who are very vulnerable to overwhelm. But if we look at leadership groups and what you're telling me about that analogy about the stool and the balance, then maybe my employees, if my values, beliefs, motivators don't align with my employees, does that cause overwhelm for my staff as well? Is that possible?
Yeah, it does. So there's actually some decent pieces of research that I found when I was doing my master's in management. So there was some research done in the public sector here in Australia which showed that when the staff understood how their motivators aligned with the agency, and I've got to be honest, whether it's a federal government agency or a business, it really doesn't matter. It's just a model of business. But the research was done around a federal government agency. So what they found was when the staff, they could see a direct line of their motivators with the motivators of the agency, the staff were actually happier because they could see that they were making a difference. The
Yeah.
other thing was that the customers were happier because the staff were happier. The customers were happier. The customers reported better customer service. And, you know, a customer who's happy is more likely to return. They're more likely to provide decent feedback about the service that they received, which means, you know, you've got these raving fans that we're told we're meant to have, and brand advocates. So, yeah, it actually does make a massive difference if you can align the staff motivators and show them how they fit in with the business's motivators. And then you've got this follow-on effect of, guess what, it's actually good for business to do it as well.
Right. Which takes the pressure off the leadership team.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing's okay. So how do people find out what those 5 key things are for themselves? Is it just a matter of a pen and paper, or is there a process? Or
I mean, goal setting is one of these things that there's so much information out there around goal setting, so what your goals are. And, you know, I remind people who come to me for goal setting work that it's not just monetary goals. We don't just have monetary goals. We have health goals. We have lifestyle goals. We have, you know, even I want to go on a holiday. I want to read for 30 minutes a day. I'm looking at bullet journaling. You know, that's one of my goals.
yeah,
So it's considering all of these goals. I use the SMARTER mnemonic for goal setting, not just SMART goals, but smarter goals. The difference is that they're evaluated.
yeah.
So you've got a set of industry standards that you evaluate your goals against. And the other one is that they're reviewed. Most people don't review their goals. And I come from a quality assurance background. Something that's not reviewed really has a problem. It doesn't sit well against my core belief structure. So goals are really easy.
Yeah.
Our fears are another thing that we probably really well attuned to, whether it's the fear of success, the fear of failure, the fear of standing up, fear for your family and children, fear of losing your house, fear of not making enough money. A lot of these fears we are really quite well tapped into. If we talk about our needs, well, you know, I need to earn a certain amount of money. I need to take my kids to school. You know, we're pretty good with our needs as well.
Yeah.
But it's the beliefs and values that people generally struggle with. Now, I have a set of values, core value list, that I give out to people and go, here you go, this is a great set of values, circle them. Circle the values that sit with you.
Yeah.
But people go to me, Cara, what's the difference between a value and a belief? People just, and I can understand it's really quite difficult to differentiate between a belief and a value because they sound so similar.
Yeah.
But there's a really simple definition that I've found. So a belief is a thought that we hold as truth, but they're not universal. So I believe in science, I believe in research, I believe in psychology. Not everyone holds the same belief structure as I do.
Yeah.
There are people out there that don't believe in these things. Whereas values, and we come to our beliefs through our lived experiences. So these two can be a little bit harder to differentiate. Our values are universal truths. So it doesn't matter what our background is, it doesn't matter what our lived experience is, it doesn't matter what our cultural background is. Values are just human and universal. So I value truth, honesty, integrity, those things. They're values, and it doesn't matter whether I'm here in Australia or I'm in Scotland. Everyone understands what truth, integrity, and honesty is.
Yeah.
And it's not a lived experience. So values and beliefs are a little bit harder, but if you think of them as, is it a universal thing or is it a lived experience thing? And looking at it that way. And if people want, I'm quite happy to provide them. If they just reach out to me, I'm quite happy to provide them with the list of values that I use. to make it easier for them to discern what their values are personally.
Yeah. And we all know about the what is your why, what's your purpose, and then we know that these values and beliefs would then drive something like a culture. And then we often find if we go into the workplace or things that influence our working environment drive us away from our values and beliefs, which means we're not true to ourselves. And often, if, like you were saying before, if we're being forced into, like that toddler example, being forced into do something that we don't really want to do, but for the purpose, or it's the culture of the company and has taken me away from my own, then that creates unhappiness.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I love that. And it's ever evolving, isn't it? Sometimes I myself, I think about my values and beliefs and what I'm trying to create. And all of a sudden I catch myself a few months down the line going, actually, I've left that. Where am I going? And I have to draw myself back in. So that evaluation process is really, really important for me.
It is. And it's so easy to be swung away from it. I was told probably 4 years ago not to talk about the psychology, to talk about psychology. I had a session with a business coach and they said to me, Cara, don't talk about psychology. You confuse people. So for 4 years, I struggled not talking about psychology. And it got to the point where I just had to. It was eating me up inside. It's one of my core beliefs. I believe in psychology. And so I just had to come back to it because my business was suffering. I was suffering because I was just so out of whack with what I believed in myself.
Yeah.
My current business coach says to me, Cara, look, a third of your audience will understand you and will be totally aligned with what you do. A third of your audience could care less what you're talking about, and a third of your audience will totally disagree with you. And you don't need to worry about those 2/3. Just concentrate on the third. So don't try to push yourself to work away from your motivators, because you're going to spend so much time feeling unbalanced and feeling unhappy. Just stick with yourself and stick with those core motivators.
There's a good message in there as well. I know that, in startups or business, we're told coaching and mentor and reach out, go and find them. And despite all the accolades and how awesome and amazing people tell you, if they don't align with your core values and beliefs, then they're no good to you, because they're going to drive you down a road. Depends, but they may drive you down a road that's not true to you.
Yeah.
And like you said, I've got a new mentor now. So that's something we say, like, just because they might be a specific coach or mentor in a certain field that you work in doesn't mean that they align with your cultures and values. Yeah.
No. And if I can speak to the coaches and mentors that are out there that might be listening to this, there are some people who say, don't do discovery calls, don't do the free 30-minute calls to see if you're a good fit. Actually do it. I had one just last week where I jumped on a call with someone who was a business coach who was looking for a business coach. And they spoke about their staff in a particular way which did not align with my value structure. And it totally threw me.
Yeah.
And it threw the whole conversation. And we both got to this one point where we said, this isn't going to work. And I realized what it was. It was because of the way they referred to their staff. And I went, no, you're not a good fit. You don't fit with my core values. See you later. Thanks for coming. I can do without your money.
So that's an interesting, so that's the other side, isn't it? That was an opportunity for you to become a coach for someone else.
Correct.
But also you have to be able to pick the people you work with, because otherwise, it's all that alignment, isn't it? Not everyone's as fortunate in it. I mean, some people are happy to be employed. And I don't know the answer for those particular people, but we're talking about business owners who are searching for mentors and coaches. Yeah.
Well, it's not just that. If I even do the analogy down to a boss looking to hire a new staff member, and you get that gut feeling that they're just not a good fit, go with it, because you can train a lot of people to do the work that you want them to do, culture is really hard to train into somebody. They
Yeah.
either have it or they don't.
Yeah. And I was having an interesting conversation the other day with someone about the interviewee and the skills, rather than those set questions that we can all practice and become refined in.
Yeah.
Dig deep and really dig into the values and beliefs of the individual and whether they fit your culture. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because remembering what I said earlier, where there's research that shows that if you can align your staff member with the values and culture of your business, it shows in business success, in happy clients and repeat custom. So if you don't have to train the culture into them and you use their inherent culture, and ensuring that you recruit the right culture into it, it's just this natural fit, and you reduce the time that it takes to bring them on board and get that happy, increase productivity. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. So if we've got people out there that might feel they want to reach out and maybe they're feeling overwhelmed, there's some unhappiness there. What sort of, when I've got my physiological understanding of what would happen, but psychologically, what sort of things might they see or feel? You tapped into it right at the beginning of the conversation, but I'm just thinking, if people are engaged and they're just thinking about reflecting about their time at work, what sort of things can chronic stress and overwhelm do to someone?
Poor sleep, poor
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah.
And these are physiological responses, but these are outward responses that they will see. I know when I was working for the government, I used to start thinking about work Saturday afternoon. When it got to the extreme end of being misaligned with my core values, I was thinking about work on a Saturday afternoon and worrying about Monday morning. That's wrong. Crying in the shower, throwing temper tantrums because apparently I had nothing to wear, but that was an outward expression of not.
You sound like my daughter.
Exactly. I have a girl. But it's just an outward expression of the stress that you feel inwardly of, I'm not prepared. I don't want to do this. And if you think about, if you do have toddlers, or if you have had toddlers, or I'm going into the teenage years with my kids, the things that they react to, and the reactions that they give, temper tantrums, feeling angry and frustrated, or being easy to tear, or not sleeping well, being tired, and then poor diet choices, headaches are another one that you'll see as well, or just feeling upset or not hungry. That's another one.
I play in the sleep world, I guess, and the detriments to your resilience and mental toughness and your coping mechanisms when it comes to poor sleep. Like you say, there's outward choices where I play, like you start to neglect yourself, which could be the physical activity, and then your poor diet choices, and then making excuses for those. I don't have time to eat. I don't really, like you say, diet suppression or hunger, where you start to go, I'm not really hungry anymore, because your anxiety levels are up and you're stressed and you're not coping. So I play a lot in that area. So what does someone like that do then? So they're sitting listening to us have a chat, and they're going, okay, so I need to reach out and I need to have a chat with someone. What does someone do?
So, I mean, the first instance that I always go to is, if you are having any of these outward expressions, speak to your GP first, because there may be some kind of medical underlying condition that you may need to address. GPs can also refer you to get mental health plans to talk to somebody. If you believe it's work related and you're a staffer, talk to HR. Consider what your motivators are, because you're going to need these things. You're going to need to have a really good understanding of what drives you. Should you go and speak to a counsellor? Should you go and speak to a psychologist? If you go and speak to a business coach like myself, if you go and talk to Chris about stress and the physical reactions that you have for stress. You're going to need to know what's driving you and why it's not working, like what's wrong. Because one of the first questions anyone's going to ask you is, so what's wrong? I was like, well, okay, let me just stop and think. Okay, so, these needs aren't being met. I've got this problem with my boss and they don't fit with me in this instance, or I've got these problems with my staff and they don't match with what we're trying to achieve in this instance, or I've got this, painful client and I've just got no idea how to deal with them, and, they're aggressive or whatever.
Yeah.
Look at where you sit and what's chucking you out of balance. Now, it can be hard in the depth of this to be objective, but it'll come to you eventually. Just sit down and start somewhere. Like I said, the sheet. If you reach out and get the sheet of values, and circle your core values, and start there.
I think also it depends on how far down the rabbit hole, because we tend to we don't like to show vulnerability. We certainly don't like to show weakness. And I say we in a general term, obviously, and what that can lead to is this denial. Not me, nothing's wrong, and you're so far gone that it's a multitude of events occurring, and we talk about it briefly. It could be you're dreading the Monday morning and you've only just left work on the Friday, and that's the sleep patterns are out, you're coping, the kids are still going off the wall, you're not eating properly, but you're probably having a bit of alcohol because that's relaxing, and it's this whole multitude. So sometimes we get a bit overwhelmed by the sheer size of what do I need to do first. And I sometimes as a coach, that's where I step in. It's just giving a bit of guidance and giving a bit of focus on a key area that they might need to change. So I certainly see it a lot. I see it when I'm working with exec leadership teams or individuals, startups, entrepreneurs, franchise owners, whatever it might be, where they're starting to think, look, I'm starting to lose control. I don't feel like I've got all my pieces of the puzzle in place. And so for you, how would someone reach out to Cara Lambert?
So there's the website. I am all over social media as caralambert.com. My website is caralambert.com. You can email me at cara@caralambert.com. So
it's all about the consistency.
Oh, absolutely. I have branding consistency down. So reach out to Chris. Chris will put you in contact with me. And I am Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram,
yeah, I know.
website. And I'm having the psych degree. I find that I'm a little bit different to most other business coaches. Whilst I've got the business experience and the business training, I understand how people tick and the reactions that they're going through and how they feel, the overwhelm that they're going through. I came to this model after working with staff who were disengaged, disenfranchised, and had a massive backlog of work. I realised that if we have, as business owners, if we don't meet our core needs first, we can't progress our business further. So, just chatting with someone, and I'm quite happy. I am one of these coaches that offer a free 30-minute session to actually go, Cara, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I've got no idea. Where do I go? Throw some stuff at me. Only too happy to help.
Yeah. Just an interesting thing to finish up on here. I was just reading about happiness and engagement at work, and then productivity. That's sort of an area I've been working with some of my clients. And it was interesting to say that higher engaged staff are almost 20% there's almost a 20% increase in profits to the business, like you were saying before. I mean, that's something we've alluded to. Lower engagement is there's a drop in 32% profit. So there's a difference of almost 50% in profit from, let's broaden it and go, happy engaged staff to unhappy disengaged staff. That's the difference it can make to your business as a business owner. So Cara, from me, I just want to say huge thanks for taking the time and making this come to fruition. I know we tap in very quickly, don't we? You know, that's how it works in this type of scenario, and there's much more we could delve into. So all I can say is thank you so much for speaking to us and giving us some insights about your history and what you've learned over these years in the public sector and now in the coaching mentoring. And there's some real thought leadership in this quick chat we've had this morning. So
you're welcome, Chris. I'm more than happy just to help your audience out and give them some ideas and some clues to reduce that overwhelm and to remove some of that feeling of stress and anxiety that they have in running a business.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Cara, I look forward to our next chat, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.